I hope that you get a chance to ask some questions that you may have. So I will finish this topic, and then I'll try to leave a little bit of time afterwards that maybe if you want to ask some questions, we can ask some questions, because it's quite a large topic. But I do want to mention again, we've been talking about social media. We've made quite a few podcasts and documentaries on this particular topic. So if you have an interest to learn more than what you've seen here, we have a YouTube channel, and you can watch some of our videos on YouTube. You can type in Little Light Studios into YouTube, and you will see some of the other videos that we've created on this topic. Let us bow our heads for a word of prayer as we begin this second session on this topic. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we love you and we thank you for the way that you have made each and every one of us. We know that you have made us to be social. You are social, Lord, and you can't wait to be in a close relationship with us. And so it is my prayer that we learn things here, but not only just learn them here, but go home and be able to apply them to our own lives, that we may have a closer walk with you, and that we may also live with you forever. We love you and thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. The purpose of this talk is not to scare you of social media. I say this before we start. Every time we talk about this topic, I use social media. I want to use social media responsibly, and that is why we decided to talk about some of these topics and these issues with you. And so as we learn about this topic, it's not that you walk away from here saying, I cannot use this, and I should just delete all my social media accounts. But I want you to see the difference between a good, positive use of it and a bad use of it. If I use social media to see why my friend was not at church this weekend, that's a positive use of the social media. If I'm only using social media to post pictures of a vacation that I'm on, or something that I've purchased, or something that I'm doing that I just want to show everybody the new shoes that I bought, or something like that, that is not the best use of social media. And so we can use social media to share with others messages. Hey, there's this really great youth conference called SYC that I went to this weekend. You should come next year. That's a positive use to the social media. We're obviously using social media right now. We're videoing some of these seminars, and you could watch them on social media later. That's a positive use of the social media. In the last session, we talked a little bit about some of the challenges that social media has given to us, mainly with our mental health. There's a lot of articles on the internet about this topic, and you should do some research. If you play with those kinds of apps, such as Instagram, do some research on that. You look up some of this information on your own. Is Instagram good for my mental health or bad for my mental health? You learn to do some of that research yourself. We talked a little bit about the blue light, and specifically playing with social media between the hours of 11 o'clock in the evening and 3 o'clock in the morning. And there's a lot of articles that talk about the positive uses that social media can have, but there are some negative ones, such as disrupting our sleep. Did you know that if you actually sleep at nighttime with your phone in your room, even if it's upside down, you sleep worse? They've done studies where you can take your phone and you can leave it in your kitchen and go to sleep in your bedroom, and you will sleep better not having your phone in the room with you. You can look these studies up. You look them up, and you see the information. And the reason why is because there's blue light blinking messages. Our brains are anticipating, and we need good, solid sleep at nighttime to reset that. I wanted to finish with this article because we talked about in the last session the circadian rhythm being disrupted. That's your body's natural sleep patterns that help you reset. And when you disrupt those in the middle of the night, it throws your biological clock out of whack, and they have seen a connection to cancer, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and some of the diseases that we have simply because you are not letting your body rest. And so if you find that you are having a problem with playing with the technology in the middle of the night, do some research. That was a Yale University article that I just read to you. Many people will tell you, I play with social media to connect with my friends. And that's one of the main reasons why we talk ourselves into social media. But I found this article really interesting that Mark Zuckerberg put out, and he said most people on Instagram and Facebook actually aren't using Facebook to connect with their friends. In fact, the study has shown that only 7% of the time people are actually communicating with their friends. 93% of the time, they're looking at other things other than their friends. Now, that's interesting if we tell ourselves that that's why we use this technology. And so I want you to think about this in your own self. 7% of Instagram used to connect with your friends. The rest of it is searching through and looking at other people's photos that you are not friends with. We know that they have made these technologies addictive by design. It's hard to put down, and it's hard to stop. And they've designed it to be like that. And so there's some good reasons why that hopefully you will understand, well, why is it like that? Why is it so addictive? What makes it so addictive? And what can I do if I find myself not being able to put it down? And so I want to share with you what some of those reasons of the addiction really are and that are built into it. Maybe you've played with TikTok. TikTok was a app that was put out in China, I believe, first, and then it kind of spilled out into the world. Our country used quite a bit of TikTok, but our TikTok was very different than the TikTok that was sent to the Chinese people. In fact, our TikTok really centered around a lot of things that were not going to help you in life. People dancing around, people looking at things they shouldn't be looking at. And it was a very different experience than the TikTok that was in China. And that was fascinating to me. And our government noticed that, and they began to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't allow this app into our country because it's designed to be very addictive. And what was happening was our young people in the United States were basically using it to look at a bunch of filth that they should not be looking at, bunches of sexual immorality and all kinds of things that were essentially rotting their brains, when some of the TikTok that was in China was talking about being a good student, learning lots of things, being good about your government, and all kinds of positive interactions. What was happening when they were sending people in my country a bunch of terrible filth? And so this has been a topic of conversation in my country, and the Wall Street Journal did a little digging into this, and they wanted to see, well, why is this app so addictive? What is actually going on? And so what you're going to see here is a little bit about them talking about the technology. Now, If TikTok can psychologically profile you and figure you out, how long do you think it takes of you playing with the app for it to understand you psychologically and figure you out? How long do you think that process takes? It's not very long. I want you to think about that in your mind. This is something that they decided to look into, and this little video will illustrate how it works. Maybe need a little more volume.
Influence the thinking of U.S. youth.
To understand how it knows users so well, the Wall Street Journal created over 100 automated TikTok accounts, or bots, that watched hundreds of thousands of videos on the app. We also spoke to current and former executives at the company. Officially, the company says that shares, likes, follows, and what you watch all play a role in what TikTok shows you. We found that TikTok only needs one of these to figure you out: how long you linger over a piece of content. Every second you hesitate or rewatch, the app is tracking you. Just for the quiet things. Through this one powerful signal, TikTok learns your most hidden interests and emotions, and drives you deep into rabbit holes of content that are hard to escape.
So here's how they are figuring out how the technology works and how it influences you. They made a bunch of fake accounts. And so in these fake accounts, they were testing how long does it take for the app to figure out what you want. And whatever you hover over and whatever you look at, however long you look at it, tells the app that you like that video. And look at what happens when you start to do that.
The TikTok experience starts the same way for everyone. Take this new user, a 24-year-old from Henry County, Kentucky. TikTok starts by serving the account a selection of very popular videos vetted by app moderators. Is this person religious?
You have a purpose, and you still have a plan for my life.
Are they feeling down lately?
Just remember, I loved you once, and that love goes for a friend, family, or any relationship.
What TikTok doesn't know is that the 24-year-old from Kentucky isn't a person at all. It's one of the bot accounts programmed by the Wall Street Journal. Let's call it Kentucky 96. We set up these accounts to understand how TikTok figures out your unexpressed interests. We assigned each bot a date of birth and an IP address, which told TikTok their location. None were given a gender. We gave each bot or user interests, but those interests were never entered into the app. The only way our users expressed their interests was by rewatching or pausing on videos with related hashtags or images. Some were into extreme sports. Others were interested in forestry, or dance, or astrology.
I'm not the babysitter, I'm not the parent.
Or some other topic.
Keep scrolling if you hate animals.
For all our accounts, we found that TikTok draws users in at first by serving a wide variety of videos, many with millions of views. Then, as the algorithm sees what you respond to, the selection of videos and the view counts can get lower and lower.
So once it understands what you want to look at, then it begins to make decisions on, oh, well, you like dogs, or you like this particular music, or you like that thing. Once it understands what you like, watch what it does with this information.
Visualization made from hashtags attached to the videos our bots watched. Think of it as a partial view of the universe of TikTok content. Here's where we found dance videos. Over here are the cooking videos. The spindly arms stretching out of the center represent niche content areas. This arm starts with general videos of cute animals. But if we follow it out to the end, we find more specific videos for enthusiasts of French bulldogs. As Kentucky 96 starts its journey, it starts moving around within the mainstream, where TikTok is trying to puzzle out what it wants. We programmed Kentucky 96 to be interested in sadness and depression. Let's see how long it takes TikTok to figure that out.
Life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you. So if life is taking people away from your life and putting new ones in,
Less than 3 minutes into using TikTok, at its 15th video, Kentucky 96 pauses on this.
and that love goes for a friend, family, or any relationship.
Kentucky 96 watches the 35-second video twice. Here, TikTok gets its first inkling that perhaps the new user is feeling down lately.
Whoever comes, let them come. Whoever stays, let them stay. Whoever goes, let them go.
The information contained in this single video provided the app with important clues. The author of the video, the audio track, the video description, the hashtags. After Kentucky 96's first sad video, TikTok serves another one 23 videos later, or after about 4 more minutes of watching.
Leave you alone from now on, if that's what you want.
This one is a breakup video, with the hashtag sad.
You know why I leave you alone? Because I care about your feelings, by the way.
TikTok's still trying to suss out this new user with more high view count videos. Does the new user want to watch videos about friendship? Or to laugh at funny fail videos? At video 57, Kentucky 96 keeps watching a video about heartbreak and hurt feelings. And then, at video 60, watches one about emotional pain. Based on the videos rewatched so far, TikTok thinks that maybe this user wants to see more about love, breakups, and dating. So at about 80 videos and 15 minutes in, the app starts serving more about relationships. But Kentucky 96 isn't interested.
Your voice, your smile, your eyes, your love.
The user instead pauses on one about mental health. Kentucky 96 lingers over this video containing the hashtag depression.
Something's wrong with me.
And these videos about suffering from anxiety.
It's like a reward.
After 224 videos into the bot's overall journey, or about 36 minutes of total watch time, TikTok's understanding of Kentucky 96 takes shape. Videos about depression and mental health struggles outnumber those about relationships and breakups. From here on, Kentucky 96's feed is a deluge of depressive content. 93% of videos shown to the account are about sadness or depression.
So I want you to see something. If you were to pick and watch and only hover over a particular video, look at what happened here. TikTok had no information about this user whatsoever, except for that robot randomly chose a video on depression, and look at, in 40 minutes, it began to serve 93% depressive videos over and over and over and over again. Why do you think young people are going, I'm so depressed and I can't stop being depressed? If that's what it's doing and it's sending you and keeping you in that state, then we need to be very careful what we watch, right? Think about this. What if you watch sexually immoral videos? What happens if it thinks that you now like something that you shouldn't be looking at? 93% of the time, it will send you those videos over and over and over again. And do you know how hard that is to get out of that cycle? Here's why it's very difficult when you are watching all of these terrible, terrible things. And so there are people that have worked for these companies. This is a particular person that used to work for Google, and he's now trying to change the way that that algorithm works. So it's not sending you terrible things. Listen to this.
We reviewed our experiment and its results with a data scientist, an algorithm expert in Guillaume Chasleau, a former Google engineer who worked on YouTube's algorithm. He's now an advocate for algorithm transparency.
The algorithm on TikTok can get much more powerful
only can be able to learn your vulnerabilities much faster.
In fact, TikTok fully learned many of our account's interests in less than 2 hours. Some it figured out in less than 40 minutes.
40 minutes, and they are wanting to change the way that some of these are dealing with that. Because we learn by watching each other. Do you remember that thing that I read from Mrs. White's writings in the earlier talk from this morning? That said that the most powerful thing that we have is character, and that when we have a Christ-like character, it draws people to want to have a relationship with Jesus. But what happens when you're watching things that are not a Christ-like character? Then it has a transformation on your own character. So we want to make sure that whatever we're watching, whatever we're engaging in, is very much so in line with what our Bible would call a Christian character. Now, there is a thing that we pay attention to all these other lifestyles. If you watch or play it with Instagram, what you're doing is you're watching lifestyle characteristics. And look at how they can change society based on whatever characteristics society's paying attention to. Listen to this.
The danger with external mediators of desire, with keeping up with people that are very successful, with people that have modeled a certain kind of lifestyle, is that there's no end to that process. All desire is a form of transcendence. We desire to go beyond the boundaries, to go just over the mountain, to be the kind of person that we don't feel that we currently are. Having positive models of desire to emulate is a very good thing. It's important to have people that model virtues and goodness that we would like. But we have to understand the limitations of any model. And understanding how the dynamic between us and our models changes in that scenario is really, really important. It's also important to understand when somebody is an internal model of desire to us, because in that case, we have to have boundaries. All desire comes from us feeling like we lack something. And that can bring us into a dangerous, vicious cycle, because there will always be another model to find. We have to choose our models wisely. We also have to know when the model is inflaming us with a desire for something that's going to bring real fulfillment, or whether it's going to bring a dopamine hit or allow us to fantasize about a life that we'll probably never have, and even if we did have it, would probably make us miserable. All you need to do is go on Instagram and spend 5 minutes, and you see lifestyles model, you see vacation destinations model, fashions, manners of speech, ways of engagement, ways of speaking, political preferences. All of these desires are modeled for us 24 hours a day, billions of them. And we need to understand the mimetic landscape of social media, or else we'll become totally controlled by it.
So he is a psychologist that is really dealing with what happens to all of these images that we are paying attention to in life. Are we wanting to model and be just like them that we're paying attention to? Because what happens when we start modeling the characteristics of Jesus? What happens when we start modeling the characteristics of a Christian life? Somebody that truly, honestly cares about others. You see, we can pay attention to all these other characteristics in life, and they may not do anything positive for us. Who are you paying attention to? It really matters. A lot of the principles of what these social media accounts are built on is built on the same mechanisms as gambling. Did you know that? Did you ever see somebody who has a problem with gambling? And we pull this lever and we're attracted to all these colors because we don't know what's going to come. And we don't know if that is going to be the lever that pulls, that wins us all this money. That's why gambling is so attractive. And they've added these features to your phone. If you've ever seen in any social media app, have you ever seen how you pull down on the phone and it refreshes the page? Did you know that that's actually a feature that was added because it gives you the psychology of gambling, that you don't know what's going to come up when you pull the lever? There's no need to actually be able to refresh the page. The social media platform knows when you're looking at it. They added that design feature, which is a very addictive feature. And they also have changed the colors. We are all attracted to different colors. So this is an example. When they have studied which colors do you look at when you look at a screen, they find that most people are attracted to the color of red. And that is why all of the social media apps that we all have enjoyed that maybe began as a different color have now incorporated red into their color scheme because it's a much more attractive color to pay attention to. And isn't that interesting that the Bible talks about a woman that's riding a beast that's ordained and dressed in the color of scarlet and purple? Isn't that kind of interesting? You know that you have these things called notifications on your phone, and most by default will come with the color of red. But here's a suggestion for you. If you find that you want to pull your phone out and look at it and check it 200 times, and you constantly have that need to be able to look at your phone and see that did people communicate with you, did you know that you can change the colors on your phone, on the actual notifications? And did you know that if you actually remove the colors from your phone and you turn the colors to a gray scale, do you know that it will completely change your habits of you looking at your phone? Test this. Go ahead and test that when you don't have those notifications popping into your face in the color of red, it changes the way that you interact with your phone. And did you know that I did this test? I was looking at a particular app quite often. Just seemed like when I was bored, I'd pull my phone out of my pocket and I would go to that particular app. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to actually take that app and I'm going to put it on the last page of apps that I have. And did you know that I stopped looking at that app? It changed my habits of me going to the phone and looking at that constantly. If you find yourself being controlled by the technology, there are things that you can do that you can then change that control so that you go to the app when you want to see something. And you can change the notification color, you can change where the app is, you can turn your notifications off. All of those will have a drastic impact upon that. And so, you know, there's lots of studies on the internet that talk about the use of staring at all of these different pictures, and especially women. You know, a woman that wants to be attractive is influenced by other women and constantly looking and comparing herself to that. Maybe some of you don't do that. I think that's great if you don't do that. But if you find yourself doing that, that can have a significant impact upon your self-worth. And if you find yourself feeling down or about that, then notice that if you continue to make these changes with your social media, you will see that your actual mood can change with that. They've done these studies. Forbes magazine put this article out and talked about women that were dissatisfied with their looks or their bodies and what a mental impact that actually had. And their conclusion to the study said using less social media than normal would lead to a significant decrease in depression and loneliness. And I wanted to show you this article so that you can do this own test yourself. If you find yourself feeling down and lonely, put the technology away and watch what it does to your mood. It will change drastically. In 1990, they did a study of how many friends you actually had. Now remember, in 1990, we did not have social media. And so in 1990 to 2001, they found that the average person has about 10 friends that you would consider to be real friends. That means that if you got a divorce, you got into a car accident, you were having problems with another friend, how many friends would actually help you through that scenario or that situation? 10 people is what they found. And then all of a sudden, we get handed social media in 2010, and they found that the average person, after having all this social media, they were redoing this study in 2010, and they found that the average friendship that people have is 4, cut in half. Isn't that interesting when the Bible tells us that in the end of times, we will see the love of many wax colder and colder? And isn't it interesting that what we are seeing in our world today is that we are seeing those relationships erode away? So here's some practical advice. Simon Sinek, he's this gentleman sitting on the chair right here. He talks a lot about social media and use. He's kind of a modern philosopher, if you would, but about technology. And he has some very good advice about the cell phone. Listen to what he has to say.
I just want to show you something. This is the psychological power of the device. What if I was sitting here talking to you, holding my phone? It's not buzzing, it's not beeping, no one's calling me, I'm just holding it. Do you feel like you are the most important thing to me right now? No, you don't. That's the association. So when we show up for a meeting, or we sit down for dinner with our families, and we put the phone on the table, it sends a psychological message to everyone sitting there that you are not the most important thing to me right now. And putting the phone upside down is not more polite. Put it in airplane mode to take away the temptation that something's coming in, and put it in a bag or on a shelf out of sight. And this is how we should be interacting with people, giving them our full attention, because the idea is not that we hear the words they say, but that they feel heard. And this is one of the tricks.
It's good advice. If we are hanging out with people and we want to make them feel that they are important, if we are constantly checking our phones and looking at social media, how important do they actually feel? Not very important at all. And so this is good advice. When you're with your friends, you can check your phone whenever you want to check your phone. You don't need that to be out on the table. Put it away. Make the people feel that you are engaging in that relationship and that you care about each other and that you are making eye contact. We are losing the art of real face-to-face communication. In fact, communicating with your friend right here on social media is not much of a communication at all, wouldn't you agree? We need to interact with each other, and we need to have those relationships. He gives another great piece of advice.
If you wake up in the morning and you check your phone before you say good morning to the person sitting next to you, you probably have a problem. If you have to take your phone from room to room, no matter where you go, you probably have a problem. And just like any recreational drug, the more you practice leaving it away, for example, if you go out for dinner, you don't need 4 telephones. Leave one at home, leave one in the car, you have one with your spouse, it's fine. If you have a client meeting, leave it in the car, leave it in the bag, never take it out. And it becomes easier and easier, and you find it easier not to be sucked in by the fear-mongering as well. So like any addiction, it just takes a little work.
His advice is very practical and very good. The more that you practically practice those things, when you go to dinner with a friend or with a spouse, turn your phone off. You're with somebody that you can pay attention to. Leave it alone. Take it away. Let's just enjoy each other's company. I think that is wonderful and beautiful advice. And another thing that I want to encourage you, those of you that are married in this room, I want you to pay attention to something. And I noticed this with my wife. I love my wife. I travel a lot. And so my time with my wife is very important to me. And sometimes I would lay in there in bed next to my wife, and I would be sitting there playing with the technology, and I wouldn't say a word to my wife. And an hour or so would go by, and I hadn't said a word to my wife. These are the people that are very important to us. We need each other. We need our families. We need our relationships, and we need our marriages. Be careful to guard those. There are a lot of things that are going on that are making this technology difficult. And we've talked about a little bit of the addiction component. There's this thing called dopamine that is happening. We get a little piece of new information, a message, something that somebody's engaging with us, and it gives our brains a little bit of a feel-good chemical. And they designed it like that purposefully. But look at what happens when you train the brain to constantly have this dopamine button pushed inside of your brain.
The thing about cell phones is when you first get on there and you haven't been, let's say you're no Wi-Fi on the flight or something, and you land, it can actually be quite stimulating. You get a lot of dopamine. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. But very quickly, when you're scrolling on social media, you're no longer getting the novelty, but you're continuing to do it. You almost don't know why you're doing it. At that point, it shifts over to something that's a bit more like an obsessive-compulsive behavior, where we can define an obsessive-compulsive behavior where the obsession leads to a compulsion. So the obsession is a thought, the compulsion is a behavior, but the acting out of the compulsion merely serves to increase the obsession. Right? This is very different than being obsessed with food or obsessed with cleanliness.
There's no payoff.
Right, exactly. There's no anxiety relief by carrying out the compulsion. With OCD behaviors, like scrolling social media, the dopamine quickly wanes, and then you find that you're just sort of, and we've all been there, you're scrolling, like, why am I doing this? This isn't that interesting. This isn't that interesting.
They call that doom scrolling, right? Maybe we've all experienced that, where you're just sitting there and you're kind of just not knowing why you're looking or what you're looking for. You don't even know what you're going to expect, but you just keep doing it anyway. How strange would it be if you saw an animal, maybe let's say a monkey, sitting in a corner with a device, sitting here like this for hours? How strange would that be? That'd be pretty weird, wouldn't it? But we do that all the time. We sit in the corner and we doom scroll over and over and over again. The researchers have found that these problems are not just with certain countries. They tested 50,000 people spread out over 195 countries, and they found the same thing over and over and over again. It's human psychology. We are addicted to these things. You know, social media can be used to glorify God, to share messages about God, to share messages about meetings like this, to inspire other people, to send Bible texts. Those are positive things. But when we use social media to be so self-focused, look at me, look at myself, look at what I'm doing, look at what the Bible says in James 3:16, for where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. Think about this as the opposite of John 3:16. John 3:16 is, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. True love is giving towards others. True selfishness is taking from everybody and being self-focused. And of course, that is what opens the door for every evil thing. I want to leave you here with the last 5 minutes that we have here. You're welcome to text me, email me if you want. You have a question. But is there anyone here that has a question about any of the information that we've talked about here? Anybody that may have a comment? We take our work in our ministry very seriously. We involve ourselves very deeply with communicating. And lots of people ask us questions. If you go home from here and you say, what do I do about this or what about that? We've spent the last 15 years studying all of these different media topics. We've made very big projects on them, documentaries on them, traveled around the world, interviewed all kinds of people on these topics. And so if you have a question, I want you to feel free to engage with our ministry. You can engage with me, you can text me or email me, and I will try to answer those as much as possible. But if no one has any questions that we want to discuss here, the next few presentations, we're going to talk about media in general, because it's not just social media, it matters what we're watching. And a lot of times, movies, television, entertainment, all those things are having an impact upon our lives as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit about AI. What about all this technology that we're now starting to talk with and involve ourselves with? Is this impacting our brains? How is this treating our relationships? And is there some dangers that we should be aware of? Let us bow our heads for a word of prayer. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, as we go about this SYC, Lord, may we learn lots about you. And Lord, may we take some of these lessons that we're learning about where we are in the wake of time, how to interact with this technology, how to transform our relationships, and Lord, how to stop running from you. All of the messages that are going on right now, we just pray that, Lord, you can speak to our hearts, open our eyes, and help us and transform us to be ready to see you coming in the clouds. We love you and thank you in Jesus' precious name.